What if your darkest valley was not a punishment, but God's hidden pathway to your purpose? What if the pain you're begging Him to remove is the very thing He's using to build unshakable faith in you? Are you ready to face the raw truth about what it really means to trust God in the darkest, most crushing moments of your life? When everything around you seems to be falling apart, and the weight of suffering threatens to suffocate your very soul. Trusting God is not some gentle suggestion, but a fierce, daily decision that demands all of you. Most people secretly struggle with this because they have never been taught how to hold on when hope feels lost, or how to hear God's voice above the noise of pain. The first shocking truth you must accept is that trusting God does not mean you will understand your circumstances or see immediate answers. In fact, the Bible makes it clear that sometimes God allows you to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, not to abandon you, but to teach you to rely fully on His presence and power. Psalm 23 declares that even when walking through the darkest valley, you need not fear, because God is with you, and His rod and staff comfort you. This is not just poetic comfort, but a divine strategy to build unshakable faith. When you grasp that God is with you in your pain, your suffering takes on a new dimension. It is no longer random or meaningless, but becomes the soil from which your trust grows. When you trust God in difficult times, you are learning to see beyond what your eyes tell you and believe in what God promises. Romans 8:28 is the secret anchor here, reminding you that God works all things for good for those who love Him. You might be shocked to realize that your hardest trials are secretly part of a divine process designed to produce something greater in you, something eternal and unbreakable. James tells you that the testing of your faith produces perseverance and maturity, and this maturity is what equips you to walk through life with a confidence that no circumstance can shake. Yet this refining process is painful, and many fail to trust God because they want a shortcut or a quick fix instead of embracing the process. The second critical insight is that trusting God requires surrender, not just of your situation, but of your will and timing. Many Christians want to trust God only when things align with their plans, but true trust means relinquishing control even when you cannot see the outcome. Jesus showed this when He prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, asking if there was another way, but ultimately submitting to God's will. This hidden surrender is the place where faith is born. It is the secret battlefield where you decide to trust God's goodness even when your feelings are screaming otherwise. This surrender includes embracing waiting as a form of active faith. Waiting is one of the most misunderstood spiritual disciplines. Yet, it is essential for building trust. God's silence is not absence, but a sacred pause that prepares you for what is next. When you learn to wait patiently, you join the ranks of those like Abraham who waited decades for God's promises to come to pass. You will discover that waiting is not wasted time, but holy preparation that strengthens your trust muscles. The third key to trusting God in hard times is to confront the lie that you are alone. God promises never to leave you or forsake you, but your pain can convince you otherwise. The enemy uses isolation as a weapon to destroy trust. Because when you feel alone, your mind begins to question God's presence. When you lean into community and allow others to walk with you, your faith is fortified. Hebrews 10:24-25 reminds you not to neglect meeting together because community stirs up love and good works. Sharing your struggles with trusted believers is not a sign of weakness, but a strategic move in spiritual warfare. It exposes the enemy's lies and invites God's healing presence into your life. Trust grows when you experience God's faithfulness through the eyes and hands of others. This is often the hidden way God sustains you when your own strength is gone. The fourth powerful insight is to shift your perspective from temporary pain to eternal hope. Most suffering feels endless because your focus is on the here and now. But Scripture calls you to fix your eyes on the unseen and eternal. 2 Corinthians 4:17-18 teaches that our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. This eternal perspective is a spiritual lens that changes the meaning of your suffering from meaningless to meaningful. It reminds you that your pain is temporary, but God's promises are forever. When you hold this perspective, your trust in God becomes resilient, no matter how long the trial lasts. Finally, prayer is your lifeline and non-negotiable discipline for trusting God in difficult times. Praying without ceasing is not just a command, but your spiritual oxygen. When you pray, you align your will with God's dismantle fear and release peace that surpasses all understanding. Philippians 4:6-7 says this: "Peace guards your heart and mind and is the very proof that God is in control, even when everything feels out of control." The secret most believers miss is that prayer transforms trust from a fragile hope into a powerful force that moves mountains. You cannot separate prayer from trust, because prayer is the language of faith in action. If you want to trust God deeply, you must cultivate constant conversation with Him. Now, what can you learn from all this? Your trials are not random, your pain is not pointless, and your struggles with trust are not unique. They are part of a divine narrative where God is the author and you are the hero being shaped for a greater destiny. This story teaches you that faith is not about avoiding difficulties, but about choosing to trust God in spite of them. It challenges you to surrender your will daily to God's plan, embrace the discipline of waiting, find strength in community, adopt an eternal perspective, and never stop praying. When you do these things, you are not just surviving difficult times, you are being transformed through them. You become a living testimony of God's faithfulness, His power, and His unbreakable love. The question you must answer now is, will you rise to this challenge? Will you refuse to let your circumstances dictate your faith? Or will you anchor your soul in the one who holds all things together? This is not a call to easy faith, but a demand for radical trust that changes everything. If you choose this path, you will experience the shocking power of trusting God in difficult times, and your life will never be the same.